Have you ever wondered what would the world be like if everyone manifested their creativity? Have you ever wondered what would the world be like if everyone would birth their brainchild? Have you ever wondered what would the world be like if everyone never took their ideas to the grave without turning those ideas to cash flow, without turning those ideas to solutions, without turning those ideas to things that will make the world a better place? Well, today I'm going to explain to you why it is very important that you birth your brainchild. To kick this off, I'm going to tell you a story. Many years ago, I got married, I think about 7 years ago, as at the time of this broadcast. And when I got married, I made a decision along with my wife that we were not going to have kids for the first few years. And as we began to go through the years, I discovered that many people started to ask questions like, oh, when are you having children and whatnot? And generally in the culture of the society where I lived back then in Nigeria, people would ordinarily assume that once you got married, you should have children after the first few months, let's say 9 months to 2 years. And so when they don't start seeing that manifestation, people start asking you, what's going on? Some people will even start praying on your behalf. People will start getting worried on your behalf. People will start holding prayer meetings on your behalf. And this is not just something that I experienced. This is something other people who were in that same situation experienced. And through that experience, through that phase of my life, I came to understand what people who are actually trying for a baby go through when they're in the period of waiting. And the reason why I told you this story is that what would the world be like if just the way people ask you in anticipation for when you're going to give birth to a human child, what if people start asking you, when are you going to give birth to your brainchild? What would the world be like if people put that much concern, put that much effort into encouraging people to birth their brainchildren? What would the world be like when people encouraged you and supported you to manifest your ideas, to go from idea to tangible and profitable creations? And so today I have just one goal, and that goal is to be that voice in the wilderness crying and telling you to birth your brainchild. And I'm going to explain to you why it is so important that you birth your brainchild. Now, for those who may not know, a brainchild simply means an idea that you have. A brainchild simply means an idea that you have in your head. An idea that you have in your head that is yet to come into fruition, that is yet to come into manifestation. There are many people who have ideas sitting in their heads, and they are heading for the grave with those ideas still sitting in their heads. No wonder Miles Monroe always says that the graveyard is one of the wealthiest spots. In fact, he says the graveyard is the wealthiest spot on earth, not the Arab mines, not the gold mines in South Africa, but the graveyard. Why? Because the graveyard is the place domiciled with people's dead bodies, people's carcasses, and in those people are ideas that were never fleshed out, are ideas that were never given manifestation, are brainchildren that were aborted, brainchildren that were never birthed. And so there are several reasons why many people do not birth their brainchildren, why many people do not birth their brainchild, why many people will even abort their brainchildren halfway. One of the reasons why many people do not birth their brainchildren is that they are discouraged. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. I met a guy who had been working on a project for 3 years, and for some reason he had been stuck on this project. He needed some big companies to partner with him in order to be able to complete that project. And he had reached out to about 50 companies, and none of them were responding to him. So he was about giving up because he had tried, to make this idea work, but it was not working. So this guy was discouraged. And then he met me, and in our conversation, he told me about this idea. When he showed me what he had done and the work he had put in, I was like, wow, this guy, you are suppressing your inner Zuckerberg, right? I told him he was suppressing his inner Zuckerberg. Now, how many of you listening to me today are in this situation where you are suppressing your inner Zuckerberg, you are suppressing your inner Elon Musk, or you are suppressing your inner Bill Gates, right? that was what I told this guy. I said, you're suppressing your inner Zuckerberg. And the reason I told him that was because I saw the potential of what he had come up with. I saw the potential of that concept that he had, but he was still stuck at having that idea being just an idea. He didn't know how to go from having the concept and turning that concept into a catastrophic success. He didn't know how to turn that idea into increased income by putting it out there in a way that people would value it and give their money in exchange for the value that he put out there. He didn't know how to turn that idea of his, that creation of his, into a cash flow machine, even though he intended for it to be that. So he was stuck and he was discouraged. And guess what? After our conversation, I inspired him and I coached him and I spoke to him about how that he needed to take that idea and flesh it out. And one of the things that I told him was, hey, you have to birth your brainchild. And if you listen to our conversation, I had him on my podcast quite a while ago, so you can go back and listen to that conversation. But I told him, you need to birth your brainchild. And when I told him that, that stirred him up, that lit a fire in him, that encouraged him to overcome the discouragement that he was facing at that time. In addition to telling him that, I also gave him some strategies and some tactics that he was able to use to overcome the things that were blocking him at that time. But the point I'm trying to drive at is that he was discouraged, and there are many people who have billion-dollar ideas sitting in their heads right now, and the only thing stopping them is discouragement. They are discouraged and they are suppressing that inner Zuckerberg in them. They are suppressing that inner genius in them. They are suppressing that inner whatever in them. And so if you're listening to this today and you fall into the category of being discouraged, you need to figure out a way to take that idea that you have in the womb of your mind and deliver it to the world. Why? Because in that idea lies your prosperity. In that vision lies your provision. Now, that guy was able to take that idea and flesh it out, and he launched it, he delivered it to the world, and guess what? In less than 6 months, he had already generated over $100,000 from that idea that was stuck in his computer for 3 years. Maybe you're listening to this and you have a book in you that you've never even written, or you've even written the book but you don't know what to do with it, or you're scared of publishing it, or you have that fear of, oh, what would it be like if I publish it, or what if it doesn't work? Or you've tried to reach out to people to get some partnerships on your project. Maybe it's not a book, maybe it's a project, maybe it's an app, maybe it's a business idea that you've tried to flesh out, but somehow you're discouraged because something is not working quite as you expected it to work, or the people that you need to facilitate that project are not, forthcoming. Well, that's where creativity comes in. That's where igniting your creativity comes in. That's where manifesting your creativity comes in, because creativity is what helps you solve problems. And when you have problems stopping you from achieving that vision of creating a solution or creating value in the marketplace, that is when you need to deploy your creativity. And when you deploy your creativity, you'll be able to take that idea that you have from your head and put it out in the world in a way that will bring you the kind of resources that you need, the kind of income that you need, and the kind of success that you have desired. And so today, all I want you to take from this conversation is that you have to birth your brainchild. Your prosperity is tied to your ability to birth your brainchild. Your peace and your legacy is tied to your ability to birth your brainchild. There's a lot more to say about this concept, but I'm going to keep it short, and I'm going to leave you with this. I hope this blessed you. Endeavor to share this with someone out there that you know needs to hear this to carry on. Thank you once again for listening. Have a good one, and see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.